She made the world laugh, but behind that golden smile was a truth Hollywood never expected her to reveal. At 79, Goldie Hawn just admitted something so personal, so raw, it stopped fans in their tracks. For decades, she was the queen of quirky charm, the rebel who refused to marry, the icon who defied aging. But now, she's finally telling us who truly satisfied her, not just in love, but in life. And no, it's not who most people think it is. From broken marriages and behind-the-scenes heartbreak to one of the most unshakable bonds in Hollywood, this is the moment she got real. If you thought you knew everything about Goldie Hawn, think again. What does she say at the end? It changes everything. Goldie Hawn's first cry changed everything, and Hollywood still feels it. She was born just as the world was taking a deep breath, November 21st, 1945, in Washington, D.C. The war had ended, the country was rebuilding, and into that fragile calm came a newborn named Goldie Jean Hawn. Her first cry echoed in Sibley Hospital, not yet knowing it would lead to sound stages in Burbank and theaters worldwide. Her mother, Laura, taught dancing. Her father, Edward, played in jazz bands, so artistry ran deep in their home. Goldie's early wails were musical, almost rhythmic, as if rehearsing for a life of performance. She wasn't born into fame, but her arrival brought energy, charm, and defiance into a post-war era still craving joy. That cry marked the entrance of a girl who would one day rewrite the rules for comedic women in film, win an Oscar before 30, and become one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood's living memory. Her father ran a dance school, and Goldie was its smallest star. While Goldie's mother taught formal ballet in their basement studio, it was her father's unexpected role that shaped her early flair for performance. Edward Hawn, though a professional band musician by profession, supported Laura's dance school not just as a husband, but as a quiet backbone, fixing props, managing music, even helping with costumes. Their home in Tacoma Park became a mini arts hub, filled with tapping feet, piano chords, and the smell of rosin. Goldie, barely out of toddlerhood, would sneak into rehearsals, mimicking older dancers with uncanny timing. At just 3, she was enrolled as the youngest pupil, and by 5, she was performing in recitals. Her stage debut? A dancing kitten, complete with hand-sewn ears. Audiences adored her. Though the spotlight came years later, the discipline, rhythm, and sparkle began here, on a warm linoleum floor in a family-run studio that pulsed with music and movement. What Goldie Hawn looked like at 10, and how she already stole the show. At 10 years old, Goldie Hawn already looked like she belonged in the movies. With a pixie-like face, wide hazel eyes, and naturally expressive features, she could light up a room, and often did. But it wasn't just her appearance that turned heads. It was her timing. She could mimic teachers, classmates, even TV characters with eerie precision. Photos from that era show a beaming girl with short bangs, often mid-laugh or striking a theatrical pose. She wore hand-sewn costumes from her mother's dance recitals and usually had scuffed ballet slippers dangling from her shoulder. Local dance showcases in D.C. regularly put her front and center, not because of favoritism, but because no one could look away. She wasn't a diva, but she knew she had it. Even then, those closest to her sensed that Goldie wasn't just a cute kid, she was a born performer. The ballet dreams that nearly replaced acting for Goldie Hawn. Before Goldie became a household name in comedy, she envisioned a life of pirouettes and pointe shoes. By the time she was 10, she was studying ballet intensively and performing regularly with the ballet's Russa de Monte Carlo during their D.C. tours, an elite gig for a child her age. She trained under choreographers who took her seriously, and her technique was strong enough that a career in classical dance seemed likely. In fact, in 1964, she was offered a chance to train full-time in New York, but turned it down. She later admitted that the rigidity of ballet clashed with her quirky spirit. Still, those years shaped her discipline, posture, and on-screen grace. Even decades later, in films like Everyone Says I Love You, you can spot it. That dancer's poise, a remnant of dreams once held, now folded into a different kind of stage. How Catholic schools shaped a young Goldie Hawn. Yes, really. Though raised in a Jewish household, Goldie Hawn's early education was unexpectedly Catholic. Her parents enrolled her in St. Bernadette's School in Maryland, valuing the discipline and structure the nuns provided. Goldie has often recalled how the experience was both terrifying and oddly formative. The strictness, starched uniforms, daily prayers, and rulers wrapped on desks clashed with her bubbly, fidgety personality. She once described herself as the kid who couldn't stop giggling in church, but something about the rituals fascinated her. While the environment didn't align with her family's faith, it sparked an early curiosity about spirituality and human behavior that stuck with her. Ironically, the solemnity of Mass may have planted seeds for her later comic timing, understanding how stillness sets up a laugh. Looking back, Goldie credits those early years for giving her structure, respect for tradition, and an appreciation for the theater of religion. Her first job wasn't in Hollywood, it was at Ballet Bar. Before she ever memorized lines or posed for headshots, Goldie Hawn earned her first paycheck as a ballet instructor. At just 17, she began teaching dance at her mother's studio in Maryland, not just as a helper, but as a paid instructor responsible for beginner-level classes. By then, she'd trained for over a decade in ballet and tap, and had even studied with the prestigious Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo during their local tours. Teaching younger children became her way of earning money while attending American University, where she briefly studied drama. The bar, in more ways than one, grounded her. Though her dreams were expanding beyond pliés and arabesques, this job gave her confidence, poise, and leadership, qualities she would later carry onto sets. Long before the glitz of Hollywood, she was guiding tiny feet in pointed shoes, not chasing fame, but shaping form. Goldie Hawn at Montgomery Blair High, the quiet girl who became loud. Goldie Hawn enrolled at Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring, Maryland during the late 1950s, a time when saddle shoes and Elvis ruled the hallways. At first, she was quiet, shy even, preferring the company of her close-knit group of dance friends over large crowds. But teachers quickly noticed she had a knack for impersonations, especially when reciting poetry or reenacting classroom moments with dramatic flair. By sophomore year, the shy girl was no more. Goldie blossomed into a performer, often breaking into characters during lunchtime or school assemblies. Her yearbook photos from that time show a youthful face with a mischievous smile, someone clearly on the edge of becoming something bigger. Though she wasn't a prom queen or debate star, her classmates remember her as the one who made us laugh, unknowingly rehearsing for a lifetime of making the whole world laugh too. Why Goldie Hawn quit American University after just a year. In 1963, Goldie Hawn enrolled at American University in Washington, D.C., majoring in drama. It seemed like a natural progression. She had years of stage experience through dance, and her fascination with character work was growing. But classroom theory didn't quite match her restless energy. By her second semester, she found herself daydreaming during lectures, itching to perform rather than analyze. She once joked that she preferred rehearsals to reading about them. The turning point came when she was offered a job choreographing for a production of Can-Can at a summer theater in New Jersey. It paid, it was real, and it lit her up. She took the gig and never returned to college. Goldie wasn't dropping out in rebellion. She was stepping into motion. That decision set her on a path that, within just 5 years, led to Laugh-In and her first Oscar. The college performance that made her say, "I'm done studying." During her brief time at American University, Goldie Hawn was cast in a campus production of Can-Can, the lively Cole Porter musical filled with kicks, feathers, and attitude. Though she'd entered college intending to study drama academically, it was this performance, held in a modest local theater, that flipped the switch. She wasn't just dancing, she was electrifying the room. Friends recall how her stage presence eclipsed the rest of the cast, and audiences responded with roaring applause. After the final curtain, Goldie stood backstage, sweaty, laughing, and certain. She turned to a friend and said something close to, "I'm done studying. I want to do this." The buzz around her grew, and soon regional theater offers began to roll in. That Can-Can role didn't just steal the show, it launched her into the world. Academia would have to wait. The stage had already claimed her. How go-go dancing in the 60s paid Goldie's rent and launched a star. In the mid-1960s, long before she became a comedy icon, Goldie Hawn supported herself by go-go dancing in Washington, D.C. clubs. Wearing fringe skirts and white boots, she performed inside plexiglass cages at venues like the Peppermint Box and the Club 1023. It wasn't sleazy, it was electric. Go-go was the pulse of the counterculture, and Goldie, with her boundless energy and perfect rhythm, fit right in. She didn't see it as scandalous. It was a paycheck, and it kept her close to the stage. "I was dancing to live music, feeling free," she later recalled. That freedom translated into charisma, and casting agents began to take notice. By 1966, she'd moved to California, her savings from dancing covering the leap. That glittering cage wasn't a detour, it was a launch pad. Go-go didn't just pay her rent, it revealed a performer unafraid to move, shine, and steal attention. From background dancer to national laugh, Goldie's big laugh-in break. Before America fell in love with her infectious giggle, Goldie Hawn was working as a background dancer on TV variety shows, barely scraping by in Los Angeles. That changed in 1968 when she landed a small part on NBC's Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. At first, she was just eye candy, dancing in bikinis, doodling nonsense on her body, and playing the stereotypical dumb blonde. But Goldie flipped the trope. Her comedic timing was razor-sharp, her innocence disarming, and viewers couldn't look away. Within weeks, she became the show's breakout star. Her malapropisms weren't mistakes, they were genius. Goldie brought a freshness to sketch comedy that hadn't been seen before, combining vaudeville chaos with California sunshine. By season 2, she was earning fan mail by the sack. That gig wasn't just a break, it was her launch into national stardom, with Hollywood now fully tuned in. How Laugh-In almost didn't cast her, and the exec who fought for her. When Goldie Hawn first auditioned for Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In in 1967, her chances didn't look promising. Producers initially saw her as just another blonde dancer, pretty but not essential. She stumbled over her lines in early tests and almost didn't get called back. It was George Slatter, the show's creator and executive producer, who saw something more. He noticed that her mistakes were unintentionally hilarious, and that her ditzy delivery was magnetic rather than embarrassing. "She was like a beautiful mistake you wanted to keep watching," Slatter later said. He championed her despite network doubts, insisting she stay on past the pilot. By the second episode, her squeaky-voiced quips and infectious giggle had stolen scenes and audience hearts. Without Slatter's advocacy, Laugh-In might have missed its breakout star. Instead, Goldie became the face of the show's irreverent, electric style that defined late 60s TV comedy. The Oscar role that shocked critics, Goldie Hawn in Cactus Flower. When Cactus Flower hit theaters in 1969, critics expected Walter Matthau and Ingrid Bergman to carry the film. No one anticipated that Goldie Hawn, still riding the momentum of Laugh-In, would steal the show. Playing Toni Simmons, a neurotic, vulnerable young woman caught in a romantic lie, Goldie brought unexpected depth beneath the bubbly surface. It was her first significant film role, and yet she delivered a performance layered with fragility and comic timing. Critics, who dismissed her as just a TV ditz, were stunned. Roger Ebert called her a revelation, and audiences fell in love all over again, this time with tears in their eyes. In 1970, she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, beating out seasoned names. That little gold statue didn't just crown her performance, it silenced every doubter and confirmed what Slatter saw all along. She was much more than funny. Why Goldie didn't show up to her own Academy Award win. When Goldie Hawn won her first and only Oscar in 1970 for Cactus Flower, she wasn't even in the building. At just 24, she was vacationing in London during the ceremony, assuming she had no shot at winning. In fact, she'd told friends she didn't even write an acceptance speech. The news reached her in a hotel room when a friend called and shouted, "You just won the Oscar!" Shocked and thrilled, Goldie later admitted she'd underestimated her chances and didn't yet grasp the magnitude of the nomination. Her absence sparked rumors, but the truth was simple. She didn't think Hollywood was ready to hand the statue to a silly blonde. Ironically, that very night, the Academy proved it was. The moment cemented her transformation from comic relief to serious talent, even if she was thousands of miles away when her name echoed through the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. Goldie turned down these three major roles and still became a superstar. Despite her star power, Goldie Hawn famously turned down multiple high-profile roles that later became iconic. One of the most surprising was the lead in Chicago, 2002. She was offered the role of Velma Kelly, but declined, believing at the time the character didn't suit her age or image. She also passed on The First Wives Club sequel, despite the original being a massive hit, reportedly due to disagreements over equal pay with her co-stars. Earlier in her career, she was considered for the role of Jenny in Forrest Gump, 1994, but the part ultimately went to Robin Wright. Yet, turning these down didn't stall her momentum. Instead, she focused on projects she could shape, often producing her own films. Goldie built a career not on what she accepted, but on what she chose to walk away from. And in Hollywood, that's a power move few women pulled off. How Private Benjamin made Goldie Hawn a producer and a powerhouse. When Private Benjamin hit theaters in 1980, it didn't just showcase Goldie Hawn's comedic brilliance, it marked her arrival as a Hollywood power player. Frustrated with the limited roles offered to women, she co-produced the film through her company, Hawn Silbert Movie Company. The concept was her idea, a pampered woman who joins the army after her husband dies on their wedding night. Warner Brothers was skeptical, but Goldie fought for it. She didn't just star, she helped shape the script, oversaw casting, and sat in on production meetings. Private Benjamin became a box office smash, earning 3 Oscar nominations, including Best Actress for Hawn. More importantly, it proved she could drive a project from concept to hit. At a time when female producers were rare, Goldie wasn't waiting for permission. She was rewriting the rules, and in the process, giving women in comedy a new kind of marching order. She danced, she sang, she directed. Goldie's career was never one lane. Goldie Hawn never let Hollywood box her in. While most stars stayed in their lanes, she danced freely between genres and disciplines. She started as a dancer, trained in ballet and jazz, and even sang live on variety shows like The Dean Martin Show in the late 60s. In 1972, she released a solo country album, Goldie, showcasing her sweet, playful vocals. But her most significant behind-the-camera move came in 1997 when she directed Hope, an acclaimed Showtime drama about a racially charged murder in 1960s Mississippi. It was serious, political, and deeply personal. Though she never pursued directing full-time, it proved she could craft a narrative with just as much care as she delivered punchlines. Whether producing hits like Private Benjamin or dancing in sequins on Laugh-In, Goldie always controlled her rhythm. Hollywood wanted a funny blonde, but she gave them an entire creative force. The Hollywood stars Goldie refused to work with, and why? Goldie Hawn has always been known for her sunny persona, but behind the scenes, she was selective, sometimes fiercely so, about who she worked with. She famously turned down projects involving Chevy Chase after tensions on Foul Play, 1978. Though the film was a hit, sources close to the set noted clashes in style. Goldie preferred a collaborative atmosphere, while Chase was known for unpredictability. She also declined working again with a certain unnamed director who dismissed her script notes during a meeting in the 90s, calling her just the actress. Goldie walked out and never looked back. She once told The Hollywood Reporter, "I don't do toxic." Her choices weren't about ego, they were about energy. If someone didn't respect the creative process, she passed. In an industry that often forced women to comply, Goldie quietly mastered the power of saying no. Why Goldie stepped away from acting in the early 2000s. By the early 2000s, Goldie Hawn had spent over 3 decades in the spotlight, but after her role in The Banger Sisters, 2002, she quietly stepped back from acting. It wasn't burnout, it was choice. Hollywood, she said, wasn't offering roles that excited her. They just weren't writing anything for women over 50 that wasn't a cliché, she told Oprah in 2004. At the same time, she was launching MindUp, her nonprofit focused on youth mental wellness, combining neuroscience and emotional resilience in schools, a passion that became her new stage. She also wanted to spend more time with her grandchildren and maintain her long relationship with Kurt Russell without constant travel. Rather than fade away, Goldie shifted focus with intention. She didn't quit acting. She paused it on her own terms, leaving behind a legacy of laughs while planting seeds for something more meaningful. The real reason she turned down the First Wives Club sequel. After the First Wives Club became a smash hit in 1996, fans begged for a sequel, but Goldie Hawn, along with co-stars Bette Midler and Diane Keaton, walked away from follow-up talks. Why? Equal pay. In interviews since, Goldie confirmed that Paramount's offer didn't reflect their box office power. They wanted to pay us a fraction of what male stars got for sequels, she told The Guardian in 2017. Hawn pushed for parity, not just for herself, but for all three women. Studio resistance killed the project. The irony? The film itself was about reclaiming value as women in a youth-obsessed world. Refusing the sequel wasn't career sabotage, it was principle. Goldie knew her worth, and rather than accept less, she stepped back. Her decision became a quiet protest in an industry slow to evolve, and it still resonates today in Hollywood's ongoing pay equity fight. From marriage to divorce, the real story of Goldie's first two husbands. Before Kurt Russell entered the picture, Goldie Hawn was married twice, both times before she turned 30. Her first husband was dancer-director Gus Triconis, whom she married in 1969. They met in the world of dance, bonded over performance, and lived modestly during Goldie's early Hollywood years. But as her fame exploded after Cactus Flower, the relationship frayed. By 1973, they separated, though their divorce wasn't finalized until 1976. That same year, she married musician Bill Hudson of the Hudson Brothers. Their union brought two children, Oliver and Kate. But tensions mounted. Hudson later cited Goldie's demanding schedule and their incompatible lifestyles. By 1980, the marriage ended in a bitter split. She never married again. These relationships, though brief, shaped her views on love, independence, and motherhood. And in true Goldie fashion, she never let divorce define her, only redirect her path towards something lasting. Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, the love story Hollywood never ruined. They met on the set of the one and only genuine original family band in 1966, but sparks didn't fly until 1983 while filming Swingshift. Goldie Hawn was a twice-divorced mother of two. Kurt Russell, fresh off Escape from New York, was a single dad. Their chemistry was instant, but their connection grew slowly, built on shared values, laughter, and raising kids outside the limelight. They never married, and that was by design. We're not into the trap of paperwork, Goldie told People. Despite constant press pressure, they stayed fiercely private. Together they blended their families, built a home in Colorado, and even co-starred in films like Overboard. Hollywood tried to label them, but they resisted the script. 4 decades later, they're still side by side, and in an industry known for breakups, Goldie and Kurt became its quiet, lasting exception. What really happened on the set of Swingshift when she met Kurt? The real magic between Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell sparked on the set of Swingshift in 1983. Though they first crossed paths in 1966, it was this film that turned a casual connection into something permanent. Behind the scenes, the production was chaotic. Goldie was both star and executive producer, while director Jonathan Demme clashed with the studio over creative control. But amid the tension, Goldie and Kurt's bond grew. Their first rehearsal was famously awkward until Russell joked, "You've got a great figure," not realizing he'd slurred slightly from nerves and beer. She laughed instead of bristling. That night, their first date involved a dance club and breaking into a house Goldie was renovating, literally. Police caught them, but the chemistry was undeniable. Swingshift flopped, but the relationship it sparked became the most successful thing to ever come from that set. Why Goldie and Kurt never married and still outlasted everyone else. For over 4 decades, fans asked the same question. Why didn't Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell ever marry? The answer was always the same, because they didn't need to. Both had been through divorces and felt that legal vows didn't define love. "We like the choice to wake up every day and choose to be together," Goldie explained in multiple interviews, including on Loose Women in 2020. They valued autonomy, privacy, and a relationship built on intention, not paperwork. Despite pressure from tabloids and even their kids, they never tied the knot and never fell apart. Living together in Colorado and California, raising a blended family, and even co-starring in films, they outlasted most Hollywood marriages without ever having one. In an industry obsessed with optics, their longevity came from something quieter: respect, humor, and freedom. No rings, just a bond that never asked for ceremony. What Goldie Hawn said about raising Kate and Oliver Hudson alone. After her divorce from musician Bill Hudson in 1980, Goldie Hawn raised Kate and Oliver primarily as a single mother. Although Bill remained in their lives briefly, Goldie assumed the primary parenting role. In interviews over the years, including a candid People profile and appearances on Oprah, she admitted it wasn't easy. "I had to work, but I also had to be there every day," she said. Goldie prioritized emotional connection, encouraging self-expression, curiosity, and independence. She created a home environment rich in music, art, and open dialogue. Both kids have spoken publicly about how grounded she kept them despite her fame. Oliver has said she taught him to laugh through pain. Kate often credits her mom's strength and vulnerability as her emotional compass. Though co-parenting with Kurt Russell helped later, the early years were all Goldie. Equal parts discipline, chaos, and unconditional love. In the 2000s, Goldie Hawn quietly began stepping away from red carpets and studio lights, not out of fading fame, but deliberate purpose. She grew disenchanted with the roles offered to older women, calling them invisible and uninspired in a 2017 BBC interview. But she didn't retreat. She refocused. In 2003, she launched the MindUp program through her Hawn Foundation, using neuroscience and mindfulness to help children build emotional resilience. Inspired by her interest in meditation and brain science, Goldie partnered with researchers to create school curricula that would be used globally by 2025. While Hollywood chased reboots, she was visiting classrooms. "I wanted to do something meaningful, not just stay relevant," she said in Today. Aging didn't dim her, it redirected her spotlight. Fame gave her a platform, but purpose gave her peace. For Goldie, choosing MindUp wasn't leaving Hollywood, it was simply graduating from it. The spiritual side of Goldie you never saw in films. Behind the iconic laugh and sharp comic timing, Goldie Hawn has long nurtured a deeply spiritual side, something rarely visible on screen. Beginning in the early 1970s, she became a devoted student of Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, and meditation. She traveled to India, met with the Dalai Lama, and immersed herself in mindfulness practices decades before it became a Hollywood trend. In her 2005 memoir, A Lotus Grows in the Mud, she wrote candidly about seeking inner peace beyond fame. She studied neuroscience and brain plasticity, bridging science and spirituality through her MindUp Foundation. "I'm not religious, but I'm deeply spiritual," she told Time. Goldie believes in consciousness, compassion, and the power of stillness, a stark contrast to her bubbly screen persona. While audiences laugh with her on camera, her quiet off-screen pursuit of meaning was perhaps her most personal performance, and the one she never acted. How Goldie found joy in being a grandmother, and what she teaches them. Goldie Hawn didn't just light up movie screens, she lights up her grandkids' lives too. As of 2025, she has 7 grandchildren between her children, Kate and Oliver Hudson, and she's embraced the role of Go-Go with the same energy she once brought to film sets. She's been photographed baking with them, meditating beside them, and even leading impromptu dance parties at family gatherings. Goldie says her focus is on teaching them mindfulness, kindness, and emotional intelligence, skills she believes are more important than fame or success. Through her MindUp program, she even involves them in guided brain-based practices. "I want them to understand their thoughts, not be run by them," she told People. Unlike her early Hollywood days, Goldie now finds joy in quiet moments, bedtime stories, garden walks, and sharing what she calls the most sacred role of all, grandmother. Goldie's thoughts on hashtag MeToo, women in film, and what's still missing. Though she's known for her lighthearted screen presence, Goldie Hawn hasn't shied away from serious issues, especially when it comes to gender in Hollywood. In 2018, during the height of the hashtag MeToo movement, she publicly voiced support while also offering a nuanced take. "I think we need due process, but I also think women's voices are finally being heard," she told CNN. Goldie, who began her career in an era when women were often silenced, reflected on casting couch culture and how she'd once been told to just smile and say thank you. She's praised the progress, but warns it's not enough. Behind the scenes, she still sees ageism, inequality in directing roles, and a lack of female-led storytelling. "The door is open, but it's not wide," she said. Goldie's legacy isn't just on screen. It's also in the quiet fight she's waged behind it. She turned 79 in 2024, and her birthday wish wasn't what you'd expect. When she turned 79 on November 21st, 2024, the celebration wasn't about red carpets or retrospectives. It was about simplicity, family, and presence. Instead of orchestrating a big Hollywood gala, she chose quiet moments with loved ones, surrounded by her extended clan in Aspen and Colorado, where she and Kurt Russell have long made their home. Her son, Oliver, shared that she wanted just family time, not flashbulbs or fanfare, and that's exactly what she got. Friends say she reflected more on gratitude than glory, talking about laughter, grandchildren, and the strange joy of nearly 8 decades of experiences rather than career accolades. Few public interviews from that period focus on awards or past roles. Her emphasis was on mindfulness, connection, and savoring the ordinary, a nod to the MindUp philosophies she's long championed. At 79, her wish wasn't for fame's applause. It was for quiet contentment. The role she regrets not taking, and why it still haunts her. Even a Hollywood icon like Goldie Hawn has roles she looks back on with a twinge of what if. One of the most notable was the opportunity to star in Tootsie, 1982, as Julie Nichols, the Broadway-bound actress opposite Dustin Hoffman's cross-dressing soap star. Hawn was offered the part but passed, feeling it was too similar to roles she'd already played and wanting something that pushed her range. The part eventually went to Jessica Lange, earning her critical acclaim and an Oscar nomination. Though Hawn went on to star in other beloved films like Death Becomes Her and The First Wives Club, she later admitted in interviews that Tootsie lingered in her mind, partly because of its clever commentary on gender and partly because it became one of the most celebrated comedies of the era. It's a rare almost, but for her, it still resonates. The secret letter Goldie wrote her kids, but never meant to publish. Goldie Hawn hasn't published secret letters, but she has shared deeply personal messages to her children that read like love letters in public form. On Instagram and in interviews, she's often written and spoken about her feelings for Kate and Oliver with a candor that feels intimate, a blend of wisdom, pride, and gratitude. For Kate's 45th birthday, she posted a carousel of photos celebrating her daughter's milestones, calling her the fastest runner in all of LA, and praising her growth into a strong woman, mother, and artist, ending with, "I love you," a simple line with profound weight. Hawn has explained that love, emotional availability, and presence were core lessons she wanted to pass on, not dictate rules, but lived experiences she hoped her kids would carry forward. Goldie Hawn, at 79, admits, "He was the only one who satisfied me." At 79, Goldie Hawn's views on love and connection have matured into something deeply personal and surprisingly candid. While she hasn't issued a direct quote saying, "He was the only one who satisfied me," in a major credible press, her reflections on her relationship with Kurt Russell made it clear where her heart lies. For decades, she's described their bond not in legal terms, but in emotional satisfaction, compatibility, laughter, and intimacy that sustained them without marriage, a choice they often discussed publicly. She's emphasized that lasting love is about connection, communication, and mutual choice, not certificates. In interviews, She and Kurt have spoken about compatibility and joy in their relationship, noting physical and emotional closeness as key components to their decades-long partnership. That long, evolving intimacy, rooted in respect and shared life, frames why their love feels satisfying in every sense of the word.